Hey everyone, welcome back. There's an old saying that says competition ensures efficiency. And I love to say this in my econ class because it is so true. Whether you're talking about sports, economics, your life in general, school, whatever, competition ensures efficiency. So in today's lesson, we are going to talk about market structures and how competition can affect prices and products. So make sure you're in your interactive notebook and you're following along. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We are on page 8 of your interactive notebook. And again, we are talking about these market structures. The first slide, I'm going to go through the first 2 slides. I'm going to talk about some background information. If you want to add it into your interactive notebook, I do encourage it. You can always make a text box off to the side. Or if you want to sit back and just listen to me, that's fine as well. Once we do pick up and start talking about the actual market structures, you're going to fill in page 8 that has a series of columns. We have our market structure, how much control they have over price, the number of firms that they usually have, the type of goods they'll sell, if there are barriers to entry, and then an example. And you'll also need to pull a picture on your own and insert it as well. So I will come back and tell you when to actually start writing or typing, I should say. But for now, again, like I said, the first 2 slides, if you just want to put a textbook box off to the side, you can, or just sit back and listen. Our essential question, though, for today is how do varying market structures impact the prices in a market economy? So today we want to talk about market structures. And market structures we want to talk first is, what's the main goal of a business? If you're going to open up a business selling sneakers, let's say, what's your main goal? You're not just going to sell them to get the same what you paid for them. You want to profit. That's the biggest thing out of a business. You want to make money. Otherwise, you wouldn't have started a business if you don't want to make money. This goal can motivate companies to try and eliminate competition, to possibly increase their prices. Sometimes it could lower the quality of their products. Again, if you are trying to make a buck, all of these factors go into that. If you're spending less on your materials, that's going to increase your profit because you're not spending as much money on the product. If you're increasing your prices, again, you're going to generate a profit from that increased price. If you eliminate your competition, nobody else out there is selling sneakers, as we said. All the money's coming to you. So all of these are going into whether or not your business is making profit. What's competition? Competition, again, as I said in the intro, competition ensures efficiency. Competition could be, if you think about it in sports, it's when 2 teams go against each other. They play each other. There's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. That's competition. You have competition in a school spelling bee, let's say. I don't know. You go up, whoever's the better speller, they win. There's also competition in a market economy. Competition here is going to be when businesses strive against each other to reach an objective. The government attempts to maintain competition between businesses in the market to ensure low prices, high quality of products, and that the consumers aren't taken advantage of. So businesses are going to compete against each other for your dollar. They're going to always try to get you to come to their business, buy their product. So that's what competition looks like in a market economy. We do have out there something called antitrust laws. They're in place to stop monopoly powers. If you don't know what a monopoly is, hold on. We're going to come back and talk about them in a few minutes because that's a type of market structure. Now, let's first look, before you need to pick up and start writing, let's talk about our levels of competition. There's a degree of competition in an industry. Now, everything we're talking about today is in a market economy. Remember, we have 4 types of economic systems: traditional, command, market, and mixed. This is going to be anything. What we're talking about today, and I say market, but I mean mixed and market. We wouldn't see market structures in a traditional economy. We wouldn't see them in a command economy. So we're only talking about mixed and market economies. So we have high levels of competition, which would be on this spectrum to the far left. We would have something called perfect competition. Or we'd have very low or limited competition. That would be our far right, and that would be something known as a monopoly. So we have degrees of competition in between there, because it's not just like one or the other. It's kind of like a spectrum, like, you know, the wavelength spectrum or whatever. So there's going to be a degree of competition in between. I lied. There's one more slide before we get started. Sorry. So determinants of market structures. Ways in which we determine what type of structure we're going to have. There's freedom of entry and exit. So that means like it's easy or difficult to start your business. Whatever type of product, what's the nature of the product you're selling? Is it something that's identical to everything else that somebody else is selling? Or is it differentiated? Is there something a little bit different about it? Is there control over the supply and or output of your product? Is there control over the price? And we're going to explain these controls as we talk about each different market structure, because each structure is going to have a little bit of control or no control. And then lastly, our barriers to entry. Again, this kind of goes along with our freedom of entry and exit. You know, is it easy or is it difficult for you to go in and start your sneaker business? You know, are there a lot of people selling sneakers, or are there like not very many people selling sneakers? All right, here's where you need to start writing on your page that looks like page 8. Again, each slide is we're gonna have 4 slides. Each one in the top right is going to have your market structure. This one is perfect competition. So you'll fill that in your left-hand side box, and then we'll go through each one. The controls over prices, numbers of firms, types of goods, barriers to entry, and then your example. So you just fill in as you go along from left to right. So perfect competition. There is going to be no control over price in a market that has perfect competition. There are going to be many, sometimes in the thousands of small firms. As we go through this, it's going to make a little bit more sense, and I'll explain more in the example what all this means, but I just want to set it up first. The types of goods that are going to be produced in a perfect competition are going to be all the same. There's going to be no differentiation. It's going to be the same exact product no matter where you buy it. Barriers to entry here is going to be very low. It's not going to be very difficult to get into the market to start this type of thing. Some of our best examples for competition are going to be milk and like fruits and vegetables. And you want to think about if you were to go to Wawa or Walmart or Acme or the local corner store, and you were going to pick up a gallon of milk. More than likely, that gallon of milk is going to be pretty much the exact same price, because no matter if you go to Wawa or Acme or Walmart, you know, whatever, wherever you're going, a jug of milk, it's milk. There's nothing different about it. Now, I'm not talking about like the almond milks and the coconut milks and the soy milk and the lactose. I'm talking a gallon of just milk, plain old, regular, average Joe, whole milk, whatever. It's all the same no matter who produces it. Same thing with fruits and vegetables. Like if you go to, you know, Acme and then go across the street to Super G or whatever, an apple is going to be the exact same both places. So that's what I mean by they don't have a lot of control over the price. I can't charge like crazy amounts of money for this apple because somebody's going to walk in and be like, no, I'm not going to pay that. I can get it for the exact same price next door, you know, or I can get it for cheaper. So it's something that it's the exact same no matter who produces it. That's what perfect competition is. There's no control over the price because there are everything, it's the exact same product. Now, we said perfect competition is the far end of the spectrum. Now we're going to move a little bit closer and a little bit closer to the other side of the spectrum. So we're going to get a little bit more competitive. Our next market structure is monopolistic competition. Here we have some control over the price, meaning we could influence the price a little bit if we want to. We meaning like a business owner. There's going to be a little bit less amount of these types of businesses. So we're moving down from like thousands of them to now maybe hundreds of them. The types of goods are going to be slightly differentiated. They're not going to be identical like we had with perfect competition. And the barriers to entry, again, are going to be pretty low, not too difficult. You could start a business here, not too difficult. Great example here could be coffee chains and fast food chains. This is, you know, if you think about Burger King, McDonald's, and Wendy's. They all are burger joints, but they all have a little bit different of a product. Burger King markets that theirs are flame broiled. McDonald's is just McDonald's. They've been around forever. Like they are the originals. Wendy's is, I think what their slogan is, something like fresh, never frozen, something like that. But they all have just a little bit different, and their products are just a little bit different. But for the most part, they're burger joints. It's fast food, so they're kind of the same. Same thing with coffee chains. Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, and like McDonald's is now starting their like McCafe thing. It's coffee, but it's a little bit different. So they can have a little bit of control over price, but they have to be careful because, again, if McDonald's says this, they decide that they want to up the price on their quarter pounder, people are going to be like, I don't know if I really want to pay $10 for a quarter pounder when I can get a Whopper next door for $5 or whatever. All right. Now, there might be some people like, I only eat at McDonald's. I won't go anywhere else. But most people are going to be influenced by that price. So they wouldn't go eat. They wouldn't pay the extra money for the burger. They would go next door. Okay. So again, a little bit more control over the price, but not 100% control over that price. Now let's move a little bit more competitive. Our next structure is a fun word to say, oligopoly. It is an odd word, but say it with me, oligopoly. An oligopoly, this one is a weird one because there's a lot of control over the price. There is a very small amount of these types of firms. They're kind of rare. The types of goods, this is where it gets weird. They can be different. They can be identical. It doesn't matter. This is just a weird, goofy market structure. The barriers to entry here are very high, though. There are not really a lot of oligopolies. It's very difficult to create a product in an oligopoly and to enter into the market. One of the best examples, 2 examples, would be cell phone providers and soft drinks. Now, if you think about it, cell phone providers. There are only 4 major cell phone providers out there. Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile. That's it. And I know you're all thinking, well, wait, Dr. Pearl. I saw a commercial last night for Cricket. And then I saw one for, what's the other one? Metro PCS or whatever. Yeah, they exist as well. But here's the kicker. They purchase bandwidth or whatever the stuff is through the 4 major companies. So those other like offshoot ones, they all feed up to these 4 major ones. So that's it. If you want a cell phone, you got to go through these 4 guys, and that's it. So usually they work together behind the scenes, and that's why you'll see that, if one's running a deal, you're going to see a commercial 5 minutes later for the other. They're constantly competing against each other, but sometimes they also work together to run similar deals. Soft drinks, the same thing. There's really only 2 major soft drink companies in the United States, Coca-Cola and PepsiCo. That's it. Everything, as you can see some of the examples here, in the background, some of these other like 7-Up, Mountain Dew, that's all Pepsi. Fanta, Sprite, it's Coca-Cola. So there's really only 2 major soda companies out there. So they're going to compete against each other, and sometimes they work together. It's oligopoly. It's the weird one, but we have to tell you about it. So anyway, lastly, our most competitive, I should lie. We're going backwards. I'm going the other way. We're going least competitive. I'm completely wrong. We started very competitive. We're going less competitive this whole way. Very sorry about that. Our least competitive market is going to be a monopoly. This is where you have 100% total control over prices. There is only one firm. The product is 100% unique. There is nothing else like it on the market. It's completely different. Barriers to entry are very, very high, the highest they can be. It's very difficult to do this. And actually, there are very few of these in the United States because there are so many regulations. Most monopolies are 100% illegal in the United States. In order to have a true monopoly, you have to have one seller that dominates at least 75% of the control. The best example I could come up with is Sirius XM, because there really isn't any other satellite radio out there. It used to be Sirius and XM radio, but they actually merged together. But their monopolies were outlawed a long time ago because in the age of the Industrial Revolution in the early 1900s, The big business owners who had these big monopolies, they just took advantage of the consumers. They bought out their other competition, and it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to the competition. It wasn't fair to the consumer because they just had total control. So that's why there's very few of them in the United States anymore. We do have what are called natural monopolies, which is usually over things like water or natural resources, and they're usually highly controlled by the government. So monopolies really aren't around anymore. But if there is something that's out there new 100% by itself in the market, it would be considered a monopoly. So again, this is our least competitive. So again, as I said, sorry for the mistake. We went from very competitive to the least competitive. We're having zero competition. Probably the most common that you're going to see is monopolistic competition. But again, perfect competition as well. There's going to be those kind of generic products that you see everywhere on the shelves, and the price isn't going to be affected by them. So lots of information about market structures. Make sure you have this all in your interactive notebook, and check us out next time for our last lesson of this unit about government intervention. So we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.